Hi guys, I've come across some really interesting information. This is through David Wilcock's website, Divine Cosmos. But I would like to share with you just a few interesting points that have been brought up through this. They discuss a couple of earthquakes in the Colorado and Washington area that were apparently nuclear strikes against underground military bases. It talks about the control of the dollar printing machine for the global financial system and starts with the Bretton Woods Accords of 1944, where Britain, France and US were given right to control the world's currency. And the idea was to set up a plan to develop Africa and Asia as well as Europe after the war. So a group of 77 nations pooled their assets and set up some global collateral accounts in order to start these plans for Asia and Africa. President Kennedy agreed to go along with this after he found out that there was a group trying to get the Soviet Union and the United States to annihilate each other, which was the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the historical accord is called the Hilton Green Memorial. And they gave Kennedy 140,000 tons of gold, and Kennedy passed a law allowing Congress, not the Federal Reserve, to create dollars from the gold-backed collateral accounts given to the US. Kennedy also said, let's go to the moon instead of this Cold War to stimulate industry, and let's develop the poor countries, and let's develop space instead of having this fake Cold War. Of course, we all know what happened to Kennedy. He was assassinated, and the agreement that left Britain, France and the US in charge of the financial system expired in '94. And after '94, there was no agreement of who was to be in control of the world's financial system. The International Court of Justice at The Hague was sued by the Chinese over gold that the Federal Reserve owners sold them. The Federal Reserve Board owners lost this lawsuit and they were told to hand over their gold starting on September the 12th, 2001. Instead, on September 11th, as you know, they started a huge fake war on terror.
The ladies that are with me were in the World Trade Center in the first building and escaped through the lobby where they report they believe there was a bomb in the lobby.
Past the lobby, there was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first and a couple of seconds in the first plane.
As many of you have probably heard about the 90% reduction in the population, I think the figure is something like to reduce the population to 500 million. And from what I understand, one of the plans to accomplish this incorporated setting off a mass nuclear war and pretty much blow up the planet, which they would then go and hide underground in these bases that they've built. It talks about the fact that the group that carried out the 9/11 attacks have been under a lot of pressure and are running out of money because they've been cut off by pretty much the rest of the world. The $2.3 trillion that the Pentagon lost over the previous decade was used to finance Blackwater, which was a private army not controlled by the Pentagon.
When DOD's own auditors say the department cannot account for $2.3 trillion in transactions in 1 year alone, that the Defense Department doesn't know what's happened to this money.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And by doing this, they were mimicking what the Nazis did in World War II by creating an elite group that could bully the regular military. The groups that are working together in order to overthrow the cabal. He says 90% of the US budget is going to the military. They say the Norway shooting was an attempt to extort $1.5 trillion.
Someone dressed as a policeman opened fire at a youth Labour Party meeting. This is the Labour Party, which is the governing party of Norway.
Talks about Broken Arrow events where some insiders tried to smuggle out nuclear weapons. It talks about the Japanese drilling ship that was drilling at the exact epicenter of the earthquake off Japan. They say they put a nuke bomb in the seabed, which was an attempt to extort money from the Japanese. Here we have a normal earthquake as it comes, starts small and goes big. And here we have the seismic chart, which shows a big start and then tapers off to a smaller wave, completely opposite of what a normal earthquake would look like. They said that an Israeli company was in charge of security at the Japanese nuclear plant. And going back to the underground bases, there was a group within the Pentagon and the other agencies that realised that the plan to kill off 90% of humanity was wrong, so they blew up the underground bases where the elites were going to hide once they carried out their Holocaust. If they have nowhere to hide, they can't nuke us all. As they've written out their philosophy on the Georgia Guidestones, they basically say that 500 million people on Earth will live in harmony with the environment. So they're stating it as though it's a balanced way to maintain the ecosystem. But I believe that while their mind control techniques can control a large section of the population, there's too many people out there which are not affected. So with so many people, they're unable to control the entire lot and therefore risk an uprising. The best way for them to maintain control is to reduce the population to a manageable figure, enough to maintain the living standards and to pamper those who set it up, in other words the elites. 57 countries were invited to discuss cutting off these people financially, and he states here that it's not a global economic collapse, that if you look at the public statistics you'll see that if you exclude the G5 countries, the average growth in the world economy last year was 7%. So the only countries which are suffering this economic crisis are the countries controlled by this evil group. He says these people don't think like normal humans. He says it was J. Edgar Hoover who said, when a conspiracy is so big, people's minds boggle and they go into denial. He mentions the Titanic was sunk deliberately to get rid of 600 senior financiers were opposed to the taking over of the Federal Reserve Board. Now, people excluded from this meeting to discuss the overthrow of this evil cabal. So people from the groups like the Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, Council on Foreign Relations were all excluded from this meeting. And they say that 80 countries have now signed onto this treaty. It says the majority of the Pentagon is on the side of the alliance, and an opinion poll shows that 87% of Americans don't trust Washington. I think we can see that by the Wall Street demonstrations that we've got, not only there but around the world. Mentioned some names about some of the key players involved, like Henry Kissinger, George Bush Sr. and Jr., Donald Rumsfeld, etc. Now the evil cabal is hoping that the people will turn against each other and create chaos. So it's very important that all these protests around the world are held in a peaceful manner. Don't let the armed forces use their fake strategies to start up riots and fuel the aggression.
They claim officers acted as masked demonstrators who attempted to stir up the crowd at a legitimate protest.
A protest leader is worried the three will get violent.
Put the rock down, man! Put the rock down!
The three refuse to identify themselves.
These three guys are cops, everybody!
Other protesters say they are provocateurs trying to start a riot.
But ultimately, it was the matching boots that gave the provocateurs away. They finally admitted it was their officers.
As we confirmed yesterday, the three people in question were indeed suited Quebec police officers performing their duties.
Now, assuming the 80 countries get what they want and overthrow this evil group, what would our future hold? Well, there's roughly 6,000 patents that have been listed as top secret, which would then be available to the public. A lot of those patents have been taken off and out of the hands of the people to keep them under the control of the cabal. So once they've been defeated, a whole range of new technologies will be available to the masses, and we'll be able to look forward to a much more united world in peace, with more efficient technologies, less pollution and much more advanced healing techniques. It's my opinion that the strike on 9/11, which was designed to gain the people's support, backfired and unleashed a massive increase in awareness of the population. This awareness coincides with the increase in vibrational frequency that we're going through heading into 2012. I feel the information that has been put in here on David's blog paints an amazing picture of hope for the future, and up until now I've been wondering whether it would be possible to break free from this tyrannical rule. So instead of looking forward to a future of gloom and doom, we can now hope for a future of peace and prosperous growth like we haven't experienced in a long time. You can download the interview on David's blog in MP3 format, and I do suggest taking the time to have a look and read through in finer detail what I've shown you here in this video. Thanks for watching, and please do leave a comment. Peace out.